Blind Faith Live, real people, real miracles. I'm Philip Keller. In today's Issam's Insight, we cover resolutions. What's a more successful way to have a successful resolution? There is one. Also, falling in the Spirit. Just recently got an email, and I thank Sue for that, talking about falling in the Spirit and explaining it. And what's interesting and mind-boggling also, the lack of curiosity, once again, from the scientific world, is that falling in the Spirit creates a gravitational field that can be studied. Why hasn't it been? And also, we're going to finish up with gifts. Can you ask God for a particular gift, or should you be still and wait for whatever it is He wants to give you? And that also involves something that happened with Dr. Nemeh that I witnessed, involving gifts and outward signs of the gifts that Dr. Nemeh has been given. He gets a little uncomfortable, but it's fascinating to listen. So I welcome you again to Issam's Insight on Blind Faith Live, real people, real miracles. First, let's start with falling in the Spirit. That is, when someone is receiving a prayer, why is it they fall back or down or whatever? What is going on at that moment?
The baseline is we have a duality of existence. We have spiritual consciousness and we have a physical consciousness. The essence is the spiritual consciousness. Now, when we are praying with people, their mind is focused only on perceiving things through the physical senses. And here, you are praying to the Holy Spirit, and when it is present, it's your spirit that perceives the Spirit. And sometimes it so happens it dissociates, sort of, the spiritual consciousness dissociates itself from the physical, because it's overwhelming for it, and that's why you go in the Spirit.
It overrides the physical. And you don't have much say when that happens. When the connection is that strong, it just goes.
Exactly, that's what happens, and it doesn't mean that there's a healing. It's just the encounter itself. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's important, too, for people to go back to that moment, because it orients them more about those moments when you are spiritually connected. On the other hand, some people just do connect right away as a result of the experience, and they do experience the healing, the complete healing.
New Year usually brings people with resolutions, and people generally with just willpower kind of take on whatever it is they want to do. They want to lose weight. They want to stop smoking. They want to get their financial orders. They want to become more fit, all these things. Is there a God connection in this, a prayer connection in this? They usually fail, so something is not connected here.
The nature in here is defective. The way of existence is defective. Now, if you are trying to reach that ultimate perfection, in a sense, you are aiming at the physical part of your being, then definitely it's going to be pretty difficult. Because you are abiding by the natural law, the laws that apply to us actually based upon our physical existence. And that's why, there is a lot of failure. And from my experience over the years, when people become spiritually connected, it becomes very easy for them actually to overcome difficulties like obesity or, addictions, certain addictions, The answer is the healing of the mind. So the advice is to seek that higher spirituality and take it from there as the means to have physical healing.
This next portion of my conversation with Dr. Nemeh gets a little uncomfortable, I think, for Dr. Nemeh, and you'll see why. One of the biggest reasons I'm doing this podcast, Blind Faith Live, is ultimately to say there is a God, there is a Trinity, and look for the signs. They're everywhere, and that miracles get your attention. And there are other things that happen, too, that hopefully also get your attention. So I hesitate to use this next portion, but I also think it just speaks volumes to us about truth. And ultimately, that's what this is about. It's about the truth. So I was continuing my conversation with Dr. Nemeh about Mary, the Blessed Mother, and her connection with Jesus and how she actually experienced the crucifixion along with Jesus. So with that in mind, I went back to that again. And with St. Paul experiencing the stigmata, the actual wounds of Christ appearing on his body, I wondered if Mary didn't suffer. I wondered if she wasn't the first to experience the stigmata. And from that, we were just talking about other outward signs of a connection to Jesus and God and the whole thing. And we were talking about something that I have seen with Dr. Nemeh. There's one time I was in his medical office and in the treatment room, and oil just poured out of Dr. Nemeh's eyes and fingertips, and it wouldn't stop, just nonstop oil. And he was uncomfortable. He was he hates outward signs. He just hates anything that draws attention, and that's just part of who he is and why it happens, I guess. But anyway, so that came up in our conversation as well, and it gets a little uncomfortable. But once again, I think the message is so powerful, and so I'm going to include it in this podcast. But we'll start with Mary and whether or not Mary was the first to actually experience the stigmata on her body.
And it doesn't have to be the physical in nature. It could be the spiritual. You could feel it deep inside. Again, based upon what we talked about when it comes to Mary last time, you could experience all the pains without them being visible.
Why does God do it that way for some? Does that protect to some degree?
It depends on the particular case. You start showing and you become like an object of observation. Right. And it's not right, Right. And we experienced some of those things in the past, but deep inside I did not feel that it should be visible to anybody. Like let's say oil coming out of your eyes, for example, I mean, it was not right to where I come from. You see, it shouldn't be.
It humbled you.
No, not in that sense. I mean, my mind is not busy with any of this really, being humbled or not.
I was there when that happened. So
yeah, but I don't like that to be observed, because I don't like people to look at me and say, okay, he's the example. Bunch of nonsense. Because that's not how things are.
But you are the example. There's nothing wrong with you being the example. No. I learned from you, so what's wrong with you being the example?
I learned from you too. And it's about the Holy Spirit revealing things to each other. That's why it says when 2 or 3 sit in my name, I'm going to be in between them. But what I'm talking about is such a subject that you cannot be the example. Jesus is the example. You see, we could be an inspiration maybe to get to that place. But when it comes to things manifesting themselves in your body, that's not my place.
But God said it was.
Maybe at a certain time, I prayed for it. I really did pray for that.
For what? For it to go away?
For not to go away, not to show. Not to show.
Okay. Because there were some times things were showing and it made you uncomfortable?
Yeah, I hate anything that could make people focus on me, because I amount to nothing. And I see myself as really nothing. I don't see any significance to
this is you, and I want people to understand this is you. So when you see somebody, the bombastic blowhards, as I call them out there, who either take themselves as very important or it's part of their shtick or whatever, what internal reaction do you have?
Well, internal reaction do I have? I'm so disciplined in my mind. Anything that could feed my ego feelings, which is physical in nature, I regard as not coming from God. It's as simple as that. So if there's a sign that manifests itself on you, as a matter of fact, to tell you the truth, I feel very bad when I'm standing up and praying with people in front of everybody else. Because that's not the right picture, and some people could really get confused about that.
It singles you out.
Exactly, and that's not the message.
You wish you weren't even there. I know that. You wish you weren't there.
Yeah, of course. It's about the truth. Again, we always talked about that subject. It's about the truth, and the truth is different from what you hear about, like people going out and claiming to have gifts of healings or other gifts. I don't know. It doesn't make me feel good. That's why, like Jesus said, and at the end you come to me and you tell me that you healed, people in my name and you cast out evil spirits and things like that. And the truth, I tell you, go away from me. I don't know you. Because here the ego is playing a role in it. You see? Because on the other hand, it's your faith, your connectedness that allows my prayer for you to work, because we are praying to Jesus, you see. And in here, if you take that and you put your ego in between, then you are completely blocking the whole thing, and it's very hard to get out of that place.
There are stories of some people who got into the healing ministry. They apparently did have some sort of gift going on, faith or healing or whatever it was. And as things started to work and as their own miracles started to happen and the ego started to happen, things suddenly came to a grinding halt, and you never heard from those people again. You familiar with those people?
I'm familiar with a lot of them, religious and non-religious, actually. Religious meaning priests and nuns and things like that. Yes. It does stop.
Do they ever get it back? Are you aware of anybody getting it back once they realize what they just did wrong?
You see, the way it happens, it's spontaneous, because that's a gift from God. And here, they cannot just go back and ask for it, because then it becomes more of satisfying and fulfilling for your ego. You can't ask for gifts. They are imparted upon you. So they are in a worse place. That's why it's harder for the ones that fall after having gifts like that than the ones that never experienced any. Yeah.
Then it gets mechanical too, doesn't it? It would have to get mechanical.
Yes, then our ego is asking, well, can you pray so God will give me the gift of healing? It sounds very weak to me,
I've heard people say that to you. They want what you have.
Many do. Maybe they have good intentions, but they will not experience it because they labeled it as such. It's their wish. It's not like I'm waiting for you, Lord, to reveal to me what you want me to do. It's like I'm dictating what I want to do in His name.
Plus, you're not in charge of that. You're not the one handing out the gifts.
Definitely not. I'm not in charge of any of that. Definitely not.
Thank you, Dr. Issam Nemeh, the physician of unshakable faith, on Blind Faith Live. Real people, real miracles. I'm Philip Keller.